actually, my name is Waldo. Oh no, it only takes once. Okay, welcome all of you, and apparently there's quite a lot of you. So that doesn't feel good on my nerves at this moment. Thank you in this session on thinking out of the box. Now I could spend one slide on introducing myself, and I actually going to introduce my wonderful team, because I have to be honest, I am not Waldo if I wouldn't have my team behind me. And this is actually not all of my developers. I couldn't find a decent picture of a few of them. So is actually my team, and the things that you are going to see today is them and me a little bit thinking out of the box. Now, I'm a development manager, so this is my team, and the nice thing about the development manager is the fact that they can do the job and I can explain it to you and get the credits, and so that's nice. Now, I would like to try something as well. Now, instead of, because there are quite a few people here, instead of raising hands when I ask a question, let's clap hands, right? So, let us try that. Are you enjoying NAV TechDays? Yes. No, only once. Okay, we need to practice this. So, are you enjoying NAV TechDays? Yeah, great. Where are the women? Oh my God, we are totally in the wrong line of business. Now, at a certain point, do you know this guy? I'm actually a real fan of Discovery Channel. I mean, I'm a real guy, let's say. I like women, I like survival shows, and I like cars. So that's, and this is one of the survival shows on the Discovery Channel. And this guy is actually made me think of like, okay, he was actually in some kind of show and eating spiders and running over trees, jumping into ice cold water and these kind of things. And he said on a certain moment, yeah, you always have to think outside the box. And I said, we survive every day thinking outside the box, doing NAV development, right? Yeah. So that's actually, that guy is the reason why you all are here at this moment. So, okay, a little bit of an agenda. Not going to spend too much time on this. This is what we will do today. I think it's quite clear. First thing, the little blue guy, PowerShell. I have been involved in some PowerShell-y things lately. So I've been blogging about it as well, and so it was unavoidable that I was going to talk about PowerShell today as well. So first of all, I have to say sorry for two things. Sorry that my big face is on there, and sorry that I have to talk about PowerShell again. I'm not going to talk about PowerShell on what is the basics and stuff like that. I'm more going to talk about what can I do with PowerShell. Actually, how do I use PowerShell on a daily basis? And I hope you will learn a thing or two. First of all, I guess you all know the ISE. Yes, that's good, because that is the Visual Studio for PowerShell, right? That is the C side for PowerShell. It's quite comparable now, because ISE had the IntelliSense, and we do have IntelliSense in the code designer in NAV as well. So it's really comparable now. So, but we can extend, we can build on top of the ISE and make it even more our own and do stuff with it. So let me try to show you that. So I created a few code samples. The first thing that you can do is use this kind of variable in PowerShell, in the PowerShell ISE. The $PSISE is actually a variable, an object, that controls your ISE environment. So you can do stuff with that. You can go to your current file. So in a way, and I'm messing this up now, you can create a statement like get item from my PSI, the $PSISE dot current file dot fill path. Get me the item. In this case, I'm getting my current current file, get me the directory, and put it in the variable script root. This is actually an alternative of the PS script root. Do you know the PS script root? That is actually a variable that only exists at runtime in PowerShell. It is not usable when you're actually just debugging a script or running one by one, because the PS script root does not exist. This is an alternative. So there's already one use that we can use with the PS ISE. Now, what we can do as well is, let me just load this line because I need that. We can use the PS edit. PS edit is going to edit in ISE a certain file. Actually, if I do this, it's going to open this script. My mouse is really not working with me. So open this script in ISE. Cool. I can control the ISE environment a little bit doing PowerShell. Okay, what can we do more? We can write code blocks. This is some kind of code block, a block of code that we can put into a variable. And we can execute that variable. Like if we put a code block into a variable, we can execute this variable, which is actually going to execute the code that was in that variable. Cool. Let's just store that into our memory and see what we can do more. Now, in this PSISE, we can do, we can go to the current PowerShell tab, which is actually my current run space that is running at this moment. Yeah. Now we can go to the add-ons menu. So in this run space, this menu here in my ISE environment, the submenus, these submenus, add one. Oh, I can add my own menus, cool. Call it hello world, execute some kind of code, and with a shortcut key. So let us execute this one. And here we go. We have our own menu button in our ISE environment. This is extending already, right? Yeah, that was unintentional. What we can do as well, do you know the autoexec? This is intentional. The autoexec.bat in the MS-DOS. Yes, we know that. That is actually a file that's going to be executed from the moment I actually start my PC, right? Not really anymore, because we don't use those anymore. Now, we want to run some code when we start NAV, or when we start this environment, this ISE environment. So this is what the profile is all about. Now, this $profile, never call your variable $profile, because $profile is kind of like reserved. So when I execute this, you'll see, if I execute this one, you'll see, you don't see anything actually, that it points to some kind of files on your system in order, in any context, like if you're the profile for all users, all hosts, the profile for all users, current host, and so on. Right? So if you create a file on this place with this name, this is actually your auto-execute.bat. Right? So I could create a file like that. I'm going to remove it first, and then create that exact file. So I'm creating a file with this on the all users current host, and I'm using this PS edit to edit this file, right? So here is the right host. Here is the file, and I'm just putting right host hello world into that. I'm saving it, closing it. So if I actually open, so I can completely close down my environment. If I open it again, you'll see that some code is executed, being the hello world. Cool. I can control the moment I log in or I open the ISE environment. I can add menus. I can do quite a lot of stuff doing this, right? Next thing is, you'll see that I've been struggling here with my prompt. Now, this is because my current location is quite a long location. This is not nice. You can control your prompt as well. In fact, every time that it shows your prompt, it's going to execute the prompt function. And you can override the prompt function. So if you just create a function like this prompt, which is going to output the PS NAV TechDays rocks, then I will never have this location anymore, and I will always have the prompt like NAV TechDays rocks. Cool. But now we have seen how we can extend the ISE. Now let's show what I did with this. When you're creating doing PowerShell, you're creating scripts, you're creating files, you need to save them somewhere, you need to name them somewhere. Sometimes you're creating stuff twice, you have duplicated code. It is like any other language, things you need to take care about, things you need to structure. Now, in terms of PowerShell, I make a clear distinction on what is a function and what is a script. There's a clear distinction. A function is something really modular that you're going to use multiple times. In any kind of language, a function is that, right? A script is something that you will execute once in a while, but it's going to use your functions and stuff like that. In my opinion, a script is a temporary function that will at some point be a function at some point in time. Now, what I do with my functions to make them always available for me in my environments, I create them into a module. It's quite easy to do. What you actually do, let me close down my environment. I have my module over here. So what it is just a set of folders. You name your folders a certain way, and basically you just put all your files being one function. That's how I do it. It doesn't necessarily need to do it like this. But I put one function in one file, and I name the file exactly the same as a function. So I can easily find always my functions, right? So I have a few functions. I even already started to categorize them. And in my folder, I've got, you see, these are all the PS1 files, which are basically just PowerShell scripts. And I have one module script, which is also a script, but is going to be run when you load the module. Yeah? So that's the PSM1 file. And what this is going to be run when you load the module, and what am I loading when I'm loading the module? Basically, just all my function. So it's going to get all the child items, which is a dir, get all these files and run them. So all these functions get run into my run space and made available to me so I can use them. Yeah? The next step is actually making my module available for my entire environment. Making PowerShell know where my module is, basically. This is an environment variable, and you have to add this path to the environment. Now, you can obviously script this as well. So what I did is I created a few scripts to install my module. So basically what I need to do is just take this module, put it somewhere. Now Dropbox is going to do that for me, so that's also automatically. So put it somewhere, and then run, first of all, the module install, which is quite easy. This is just editing the environment variable. You all know what environment variables are. There is a module, a PS module path variable as well, and you have to add your path, your current path. I'm using this PS script root here because that's where my path is at this moment. Yeah? I'm adding that, and I'm adding that to the current variable in PowerShell as well. So it is up to date at this moment. Then I'm going to import all the modules once, and from that moment, my environment will always know which functions I have when I open my environment. Cool. Run, done. Next, I have here kind of like create profile in ISE, which means, okay, extend my ISE because I want more than what you are giving me, right? Okay, open please. And what is this? It's just going to check if my profile already exists. If not, then create a file. If it already exists, write a warning like, okay, there was already a profile, I added my stuff at the end. And what is that stuff? Just code in a text. This is a lot of code, and I'm just adding this code at the end of the file. And then opening this file in my ISE to show what it actually did. So let me execute this. Here is my profile file. I can remove this right host, this hello world. I don't need this comment. I'm going to update my prompt, do something that is meaningful for me, and I add some kind of functions to my submenus, right? So if I close down my ISE now, and I open it again, I will always have an updated ISE environment. I can just run easily the NAV modules. I can work with NAV. I can open my scripts folder. I can do stuff what I actually am doing daily. This is my ISE environment, and this is actually running 2 scripts. Next, something that I really need to address is ISE Steroids. Who knows ISE Steroids? Not too many, so this is good, because now I'm teaching you something. ISE Steroids is actually the thing that you just saw that I did, but then multiplied by 205 or something, by a lot. This is, for me, the tool to use when you're using the ISE of PowerShell. And you will see it's going to load now, and you will see it says, oh, good afternoon, Eric. Who doesn't want a tool that says good afternoon to you, right? And you'll see here that the ISE is adding lots of buttons, lots of functionality to my ISE environment. I mean, the ISE Steroids is adding that. It even adds a separate menu for my comments. And what I definitely like a lot is this refactoring add-on that it has as well. When you're writing scripts, you have a lot of options to do, and you can, very simple thing, you can either use one single quote or a double quote for a string. What should I use? ISE is going to learn you what you should use. It has got refactoring capabilities. It can even fix your script. You can script everything and everything works, and then you can fix your script and it will structure how it should be structured for PowerShell. So I really like this one. What I like as well is what I'm going to show you during the next demos quite a lot, so I will address that when I'm using that. So this is your personal PowerShell assistant or your personal PowerShell consultant. It is well worth the money. It does cost a little bit. It has been written by an MVP who gives it for free on MVP, so I didn't have to pay for it. So it's well worth the money. No, but that's actually the reason why I cannot tell you what you should buy. There's different kinds of price tags. Just check out the website and see for yourself. Next, when you start creating your scripts, always, as I said, think in reusable functions. I'm going to show you a few of them that I'm actually using daily. Voilà. And I'll start with the basics. Invoking a SQL query. This is, if you are able to invoke a SQL query, you can do a lot with PowerShell. So what I did is I created one function that very simply invokes a SQL query and gets all as many default parameters as possible. So I have to give as less default parameters as possible. Like in this case, I can just invoke a SQL, give the database name and SQL query, done. And even I do not have to give a database name. If I don't give a database name, it will execute it in the master table. So it's very easy. I can execute it, and hopefully it works. I do need to run, I think, the NAV 2009, so let's execute it again. Now, what I like about the invoke SQL as well is that it's going to build me an object. So all the fields in my table will be properties in my object. So I can access the result and just take one property out of it. These are my company names, right? If you can execute SQL, you are able to do a lot. Next, if we can execute SQL, we can take a backup, because essentially backing up a database is executing a SQL statement, right? So that's actually the next level, and we are taking backups all over the place. How do you take backups? Is it with SQL Management Studio manually, or is it with PowerShell? Less people with PowerShell. So let me actually just show you. Now I'm showing you an ISE Steroids function. Go to definition. How cool is that? Not that cool, apparently. So this is just one of the functions. What I'm doing here, if you're managing backups, the thing that you always have problems with is finding the folder where that user from SQL is able to put a backup, right? Like you cannot access this folder. Why not? I can access this folder. Yeah, but actually the user cannot access this folder. So always a problem. You are always sure to back up to the folder where SQL has the setting like the default backup folder, right? So I'm getting that out of the registry. Let me just close this one. I'm getting that. Is this readable, by the way? Yeah, it is. I'm getting that out of the registry and just performing a simple invoke SQL to perform that backup. It's going to put that on the default location. I know this is always going to succeed. And what I'm getting back is an item being the backup file. And I can work with that, like backup database, move to the location I want to do. Okay, if we can do that, we should also be able to restore a backup. This is a bigger problem. Did you ever try to restore a backup with PowerShell? Not that many. This is not easy, and it's definitely not easy. But now, restoring a backup, you have to take care of the logical file names, you have to take care of the physical file names, and it should be the new database name, not the old database name, right? So by default, if you restore a backup, the backup files is going to be the original database name, and you don't want that. So that is a thing that, again, the PowerShell can take care of. And what I'm doing here is I'm going to just select, there's also another thing you have to take care of is where does the database files need to be, and where does the log files need to be, right? So, yeah, you want to have this in the SQL Server settings. So it's going to get that out of SQL. In this case, it's just a server property that you can query with, again, the invoke SQL for the default database part and default log part. Then I'm going to construct some kind of SQL statement where everything is in. Like here is the physical files, here should be the physical files. The physical files should have this name, and the logical files should have this name. I noticed that I'm not really executing anything. So let me take the backup and restore it as well. And you'll see that the invoke statement has got some right host, like you're invoking now this to the database, to this database, and stuff like that. So you can really see what's going on in the background. Now, always when you create functions to create something, always create the functions to destroy it. Because there is something called rollback, which PowerShell does not know. If you have this kind of script and you were able to do this, this is committed. And there were 5 databases created, you might want to script also like a cleanup thing to destroy what you just have done, right? So I have my drop SQL database if exists, and just let me remove this database that I just created. Now, okay, we have these basic functions, these building blocks. Let's go one step further. What we would like to do is have an easy commandlet to build a NAV environment, being restoring a backup, being also create a service tier, and all these kinds of things. So let me show you this one. This is actually quite easy. Still, it's going to let me try to find. It gets the backup file, so it's going to restore the backup, then create a new NAV server instance. Then let me just execute this, and then it can do that in the background. Then I'm going to get the server account, the service account, and make them DB owner, which is kind of like a good practice. So make a DB owner, also that is just invoking some SQL. And then there are a few options. Obviously, when you create a new environment, you need a license as well. So there's an option to provide a license and upload the license in the database. There is an option for the port sharing. Who uses port sharing? So that means who does not use port sharing? Okay. Who does not use NAV? Because either you're using or not. Now, port sharing is definitely not something that Microsoft is going to recommend, and you should use that for your own concern. But we are using it really a lot, and we do not have any problems just yet. I'm touching wood. There is no wood here. I'm touching wood. Maybe tomorrow there is a problem in port sharing department. So I also have an option to start a Windows client here. So it's asking me, do you want to start a Windows client? Oh yes, start it as well. No, that's actually the same as this one. As you can see, I can build even further on this. Like, okay, now I've got a function to build new environments. What about copying environments? I'm always installing a default instance. If I take the CD, the one thing that you do is you put it in your DVD drive. No, probably you don't. But you execute the setup and you install a default environment. But sometimes you want to test stuff and you want to copy this environment, and then all the manual things start, like, okay, let me manually take a backup, then I go to the administration console, create an instance, and all these kind of things. Oh, I need actually a service account, blah, blah, blah. Why not use what we already have and just read what is in a certain server instance, like which database is this, what should I back up? Okay, back this up, create a new server instance, and continue with that. Yeah, I cannot show the definition just yet. But basically, that is what it's doing. Now, again, on top of this, you can build functions like convert to multi-tenancy. If you're doing demos and you have to convert to multi-tenancy, it's always the same thing. Export the application, remove application, update your server configuration, and all these kinds of things. So again, you can build converting into multi-tenant environments as being just a simple function. Yeah? Not going to execute all of them because it's just going to take too long. But as I said, when you create stuff, always create a function to remove it as well. So that's what I did here as well. The remove nav environment, quite an interesting one because it's going to check all the databases, for instance, also for a multi-tenant environment, and you have multiple tenants and the application database which it needs to remove. But if you execute this on a live system, yeah, then you're in for a treat. Okay. You can not only build your own new functions, you can also, and now I have to pick my words, do I see someone from Microsoft? I don't actually. You can also fix the commandlets that Microsoft built. For instance, did you ever work with getting a certain configuration from a certain service, like the get nav server configuration commandlet? Not too many people. Let me show you this. There is, I need to wait a little bit until my, yeah, they are dropped, okay. So this statement, and I just can say, okay, get me all my configurations from my default instance. Execute this, and you know this, right? This is actually the output, what we have in the XML from, yeah, for the server XML. Now, we are definitely never interested in getting this entire XML. We're usually interested in one specific thing. Like, let's just say we're interested in the multi-tenancy part. Like, is this server instance multi-tenant? So what I would like to be able to is, yeah, that's why you want to get to it straight away. Yeah, sorry, I'm very bad in searching in these kind of things. Here, this multi-tenant key false. It's actually, I would want to get in my PowerShell script straight to the false. Like, if false, then do this, or if true, then get tenant, right? It's not that easy, because I should be able to do something like this, where key equals multi-tenant. F8, zip, nothing. And it should work. Now the thing is, this commandlet is a very good example of how to not build commandlets, actually. What you can do is, and I'm just going to show you the solution. The thing is that it is actually just showing an XML. And if you export this XML, or if you are using this XML as an XML, you're able to get, let me just execute this first, to get to the, do I remember this? I don't. Sorry for this. You can get to all the nodes that are in your XML. With a little bit of search, you can find out that actually your true stuff is in there. And what you can do is filter in there. So you can get to this false kind of thing if you just place this between bracket, get the value, and here is your false variable. Now, this is quite complex, so you should obviously turn this into a function. Now, what I did, and with the help of someone from the community, I turned this into a function that is called get NAV server instance 4. Yes, I have multiple versions. Now, get NAV server instance 4, I actually was thinking like, okay, if I'm getting the server instance like the state, I might also be interested in their configuration. And why is this two commandlets? It's like it's a one-on-one relationship. So why not having one statement giving me everything? And as you execute this one, you see that it gives me back everything, but in an interesting way. Like if I put this into a variable, you see that I can access this as being properties. Maybe not. Maybe it helps that I actually provide the server instance. You can see all the points that I am interested in. So I can just take the multi-tenancy part, and this is a much nicer way to work with configurations of your server, right? So not only you can create your own building blocks, you can even fix what is already out there. Yeah. Now, obviously, the one thing that we want to do with PowerShell is upgrade. Is it not? So, but upgrading is a lot of building blocks. And for everyone, it's about different on which building blocks you want to execute, when, and how. I'm going to step through this because I notice that I'm already over time, on not even all of the session. The goal is to automate as much as possible. Imagine that you have a script that you can feed with a backup file and some kind of text file with objects. Or not even, you can even get the objects from the backup file. You run the script, and about 16 minutes later, you get a backup file with an entirely upgraded database with data and all that. Would be cool. If we want this, I think there are 3 steps. First of all, we need to merge. And if we need to merge, yeah, we need to automate quite a lot, like exporting stuff. We need to create the deltas, apply deltas. We need to, yeah, worry about the conflicts, if there are any conflicts. If not, you can just continue. We need to worry about version list and so on. Now, this merging thing is only one small step. In fact, this merging thing is maybe only 3 minutes or 4 minutes. It's all the rest that is actually taking quite a lot of time and upgrade as well. Like creating your FOB file. This is a classic upgrade path, by the way. Now, creating the FOB file might be like create a sandbox database, because I can only create a FOB file in my new version. So create a new database, temporary, load my merge result into that, compile it, export it again, I've got my FOB file. Then the data upgrade needs to take place, which means restore it in a modify, unlock the object, convert, blah, 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 blah. Now, I've put this into a script, and it works, and this is the output. Obviously, I can show you anything I want, but I can guarantee you it works. So there is a script that does everything. It's quite an output because it's going to do quite a lot, actually, building databases, exporting objects, merging. And all in the end, you see here that it's actually also performing the data upgrade, deleting tables. Never forget to delete the tables that were actually deleted in, for instance, the target instance, right? And all of a sudden, you have a result. Now, this result, it took 951 seconds, about 16 minutes. We should go faster. 15 minutes. Are we happy with 15 minutes? No. Yeah, no, yeah, okay. A few. Oh, so I skip this. Now, there was a person called Gunnar Jetson. He's an MVP as well. Actually, I don't see him. He brought me to the idea like, okay, but you can use the power of multi-tenancy. Let me try to explain in the one slide I'm most proud of, because it took me only 2.5 hours to build this one. So, what we can do after that we did a merge, like the merge is still the same, export, merging, and solving a version list. But what we can do is trying to avoid the conversion of the database, because converting the database to a new version is taking quite a long time. Let's try to avoid that. What we can do is we take our target environment and we are going to copy that. We got our copy command. We can import the server license, we can restart it, obviously, then import all merged objects, compile. We do not care about data in this one, so just compile, force, and make sure it works. Then, using multi-tenancy thing. So we're going to convert to multi-tenant, being, yeah, 2 databases at that point, having our application separately from our tenant data. We just destroy the tenant data. We don't care about that. Now we have an up-to-date application compiled. So, ready to start our data. So we can restore our modified database, which is actually our development database that we try to upgrade with data. Development our production database with data. What we can do is, also this one, just remove the application. This one is outdated, so we don't care about the application. And we're going to mount it to our new application. Obviously, this is not really compatible. So what we can do, we can import the upgrade code units. We still need them, obviously. Sync it. So this sync statement is going to take these upgrade code units into account. And then start the data upgrade. Yeah? And then, the only thing you need to do is just dismount, because you started with a single tenant environment, the result should be a single tenant environment, so you need to convert this kind of thing into a single tenant environment. And you can easily do that by exporting the application into an existing database. So you can just export the application to your tenant. And now, drop this database, and you've got a result. This I also worked out in some code. I'm briefly going to show you the code. It's the upgrade part, Mr. No, sorry. It's the go faster. What we have here is basically a function that does it all. I didn't put too much time in structuring this function, so it's quite a long one. So all these steps that you have seen is just one after the other. We save 8 minutes. So actually, we gain 50% of our time, right? So I think this is a cool option, but only an option when you're 2015 and higher. If you need to do Unicode stuff, you need to do different dimension stuff, obviously it's not part of this script. Can we think of one more step that we need in our upgrade scenario? Do you think we covered it all? Is this automating everything that we want to automate? Anyone? Clapping is not going to help you now. What? As well, but testing is actually just running a code unit. You know, you've seen it. Actually, one more step is downloading your update. How do we download? It's quite a manual step, right? It is finding some kind of blog article which mentions the cumulative update. Which is the best blog ever? No, it's the NAV team blog. The NAV team blog mentions the cumulative update, right? So you could look into that. Then find the knowledge base article on this. Then request a hotfix. Then select the hotfix and fill in your email. Open your email and find the link and click the link. The email looks something like this. Right, this is an email, and you see here a link that you can click, and it's going to start to download. Can we automate this? Okay, you already know, so I can skip to the next topic. We can automate this. Now, let's have a look at this link. Because this link provides us some data, and we might get this data out of this kind of website. So this is actually the website with all the platform updates. This is actually where we fill in our email address and request a hotfix, right? Now, we have this table here, and if we compare it with a link, there is some data that is not in this table, like this number here. Do we have that? Yeah, it's this number. Cool. We have this number here, and it's not really in the table. So, and I should have the data somewhere to be able to compile this link. Yeah. So what we can do, this is a trick of one of my developers, by the way. I really did not. We can go into source of this website. So let us check if there is any usable data here. At a certain point, there is this thing. Do you recognize that? What is it? What? It's JSON. It's not a person. Now, JSON is a way to describe an object. Now, let's break this down. Let's look at this JSON thing. You'll see that actually all the data that you need to compile, that you need to compile this link is in the JSON part. So no, you cannot read maybe the visual part, but you can read the JSON, and definitely you can read the JSON in code. Code, when we think of code, we think of PowerShell, obviously. Now, what my developer did, he built this into a bigger tool, which we also built actually ISO on the fly. From the moment there is a cumulative update, an ISO pops up, and we can use this ISO in our virtual environment. Now, what Camille did is, Camille Sacek, you know, Kine from Mibuso probably, he built a PowerShell commandlet with actually just the same trick. And let me try to find this PowerShell commandlet. If I'm having internet, then I'm lucky. So let me just run the function and then run what it is doing. It's actually just performing all the steps that you need to do to this. So it's actually going to, just check if it is working, to the blog, from the blog to the knowledge base article. Knowledge base article, it's going to read the JSON, or the request hotfix. It's going to read the JSON, compile the string, and start downloading. So this is a script that you could use in some kind of server environment with daily monitoring your or the blog, right? Now you've got everything. Now you have a building blocks. You can come in the office in the morning and Monday morning, having a mail saying, hey, there are 3 conflicts on the late list, cumulative update. Download. Oh, was there a cumulative update? Oh yeah, there was. Oh, it tried it. Oh, I've got 3 conflicts. Let's solve them. Or there were no conflicts, and a database was created with these credentials and everything on it. All the building blocks are there. Let's stop this one. So, PowerShell key takeaways. Only 20 minutes over time. I think we can do a lot with PowerShell. Think in reusable functions, extend the thing, and do not be afraid of PowerShell. Use it in your daily life. I'm using it to back up my music, to back up my my movies, my home videos, to a folder where my kid, 2-year-old kid, can watch the movies. It's front of homemade movies that we make. PowerShell can easily do it. Now, one question. Did you like what you see? Would you like to get your hands on these functions? Well, from today, it's actually already online, and you can actually access all these functions already on GitHub. It is on GitHub. Quite a lot of people are taking pictures now. It's good. Share your experience. One disclaimer. There is no support whatsoever, but there are a bunch of tricks that you can use. And if you obviously hook into GitHub with GitHub, then you can collaborate and share experiences, and we can be a whole happy family, PowerShell family for NAV. Extensions. This is the only decent logo I've found about extensions. I really wonder what they were thinking for naming these things extensions, actually. Extensions. Extensions. Okay. In short, what is an extension? I think when we talk about extensions, and I shouldn't be calling it apps, but I'm going to calling it apps, because explaining what extensions are is by just referring to apps. Think of being able to install multiple apps in your NAV environment. So this app should create, or is going to create some stuff in your environment, like create fields or create modification on pages or create extra code and business logic. But if you have multiple apps, extensions It's going to create multiple changes, and you should be able to install apps or extensions and uninstall one by one. And so it's kind of like a complex thing, but basically what extensions are is an upgrade save modification to your database, being able to install and uninstall a modification. Now, what is a modification? A modification is a delta. So extensions are based on deltas. If you do not know what deltas are, then I will show you in a minute. I will try not to repeat what Thomas already did this morning. Now, what do we need to create an extension? Again, PowerShell. Oh no, Waldo. Again, PowerShell. Yes, I'm afraid so. Now, we have multiple PowerShell commandlets for creating extensions. In fact, we have PowerShell commandlets to create them. An extension is basically a navx file. And to deploy them. Yeah, you have seen this. Now, to do this, you need a manifest. A manifest basically is going to describe your extension. Always think global, like if you're creating an extension, you're putting it on some kind of website, somebody downloads it, it needs some description. What does it do? What prerequisite does it have? What are the dependencies, these kinds of things, but also who is the manufacturer? Oh, it's de facto. I don't trust de facto. These kind of things. Oh, it's Microsoft. No. So that's a manifest. What's in the package in the navx file? As I said, it's deltas. It's not a FOB. It's not a text file. Deltas is a text file, but it's not an object text file. It is a delta. It describes what you have done for development. Okay, now let's create a simple extension. I'm going to go over this really fast because I was not in the keynote, but I heard that you already seen this. Is that correct? Okay. Okay, so I'm going over it really fast. And usually when I say that, it takes 2 times the time, but anyway. As I said, there was 2 steps. Yeah. First of all, let's open the development environment. I created already a development environment for my simple extension. It's called Simple Rental Extension. So there is no developments just yet, and I'm importing this text file, which means I have been developing the item. I added a rental item field, and I changed 2 pages. Okay, so what I can do now, and I will do that in one big step, is I'm going to create a working folder because I'm going to export Delta files and stuff like that, so I need a separate kind of folder that is going to manage that for me. This is my folder, and now I'm creating the manifest, I'm creating my deltas, and I'm creating my navx file. This navx file contains the manifest. You see that I point to the manifest. Contains the deltas. You see that I point to the app files, which contains my delta. You will see that in a minute. Here are my deltas now. And the path where it needs to create a navx file. And here is my navx file. Okay, when you have that, that is your app, your extension. So when you have that, then you can publish it. Step number 1, publish it, making it available in your testing environment. This is going to be my testing environment. Which means, do not make it available to users yet, just make it available for administrators to install it for the users. Yeah? First step, this one is going to do quite a lot. It is it's checking the prerequisites and the dependencies. Obviously, am I able to install this? In my case, there are no dependencies whatsoever. Then it's going to build a sandbox database. It's going to build you a new database. Why does it need that? Because else it would change my resulting database, which is not the idea. And so it's built a new database, It exports the objects, is going to apply the deltas, import the objects again, compile it, and then you've got it has got the metadata it needs for the application to work with. Let us see if it is done. Now, publishing can take a while, depending on how big your extension is. Now, what we can do is just install it. And installing shouldn't take that long. Now we can check it, like, okay, which are all the tenants or the apps that I have installed. And you see that I have installed the, no, sorry, I should do that with this one. That I installed the rental extension. Now this is also a command that you have, but I personally didn't see the use just yet for the GetNav app tenant. It should show you all the apps that is on a certain tenant, but it's not really giving me the information on the app. So what I'm using is the GetNav info, and you can use that in two ways. Either you just provide a server instance, and then it's going to show you the published apps, or if you provide a tenant, it's going to provide you the installed apps on the tenant. It also works in a single tenant environment. You just have to provide the default as being just default tenant. And now I can just show what I want to show, being, I lost my water in somewhere. Who took my water? So here it is. So what I did is I created a new field and I added that to pages. So let me check in my test environment whether this field exists. It does, the rental item field. And check in the dev environment if the field exists. So I mean in the IDE environment of my testing environment, right? So I shouldn't have any change here, and I don't. So there is not one changed object, and if I go and check table 27, you'll see that there is no table or field 50,000. So the application is aware of the field, but actually my development environment is not aware of the field. And we want it like this. Yeah? Okay, let us have a look at the more serious app. Let us try to have a look at the more serious app. Okay, I shouldn't have closed this one. Hola, that's normal. I closed my ISE environment, which means my run space is empty again. So this is, it showed me somewhere some kind of box, yes. Here. The dev environment from this application looks like this. Now, it's a little bit more objects. That's what I mean with a little more serious rental app. These are 70 changed or added objects. So there is quite some business logic that was added and hooked into the default application. Now, this is the default application. What we did is also a rental extension. We added like a new filter on the role center, which filters our rental items. We have added some actions on the default page, which is going to, being able to buy rental. So this calls out to our new environment, which I can simply going to use. Now, let me just show you this. Create a purchase order. Now, this is obviously calling back to default functionality, creating a purchase order. And I can receive a purchase order as well. And when I receive a purchase order, it's going to actually just post it. It runs through the item ledger entry posting. And I hooked into the item ledger entry posting to add some entries in my rental entry. Yeah? So that's why we have some amounts here. So there is some hooking into default functionality going on. There is some changing of pages going on. There is some visualizations going on as well. Like on the customer, we have a map, which is added and part of the extensions. And yeah, we also, I'm not going to show you everything. So it's actually basically trying out what is possible with extensions, and building this, there were some best practices that we ran into that I would like to share with you. So, best practices. First of all, when you're doing extensions, always work in an isolated development environment. Know that you only care about the deltas. You do not care about any versions. You don't care about any localizations whatsoever. You care about what you are going to change on a certain system. So never start developing an extension in your ongoing development environment of a vertical, for instance. That doesn't compute. You should be able to create a delta. What is going to be the delta for your extension? Yeah? So it should be isolated always. Let me just check if I just told everything. Yeah, probably. Always test as an extension. This is out of experience, believe you me. Never expect that an extension is going to behave like it would behave like normal development. Very simple example, business charts. Does not work in extensions. We were developing the business charts in our extension, lost 3-4 hours for building a cool looking business chart, and then we built an extension and said, oh, you cannot use business chart, you cannot use any add-in. Yeah? So always when you test as an extension. New function on tables, it's not possible. You cannot write any code in existing objects. Yeah? That means you can add actions, you cannot add code to it. So in new actions on existing pages, you should call objects. So call a code unit or call a page. Report. No reports. So you need to know your limitations. And best is you need to always test as an extension. Now, again, PowerShell can help. Oh no, here he is again. Yeah, PowerShell can help you doing this. Now, by the way, also part of this of the module, I've built some scripts around extensions, and together with a colleague, by the way. But about everything is together with colleagues. So what I have here is some kind of settings. What I sometimes do to structure my PowerShell is, if I have multiple scripts, I have one extra script to hold my settings, because all these scripts is going to use the same settings. Yeah. So what I'm going to talk about is building your environment and creating your dev environment. So I've got my setting script here. I'm talking about the rental extension. A certain initial app version is going to add versions to the manifest automatically. So it finds already a manifest, and it can add a version, and you have a new version of your app. But let's start by building our dev environment. You have seen all these functions already, building and copying and these kinds of things. That's actually what I'm using here. So basically what I'm doing is create 3 environments, being, where is it? The original modified and target environment. So I always have an original where I compare it, because I need deltas. Then I have my development environment, and I have my testing environment. And this testing environment, I'm going to convert to multi-tenancy, because I want to test in a multi-tenant environment. For 2 reasons. You should always test in a multi-tenant environment, because it should work in a multi-tenant environment, but also I noticed that it builds faster in a multi-tenant environment. Something to do with the sandbox. Nothing that I can explain why that should be faster than building in a single-tenant environment. It's just I can convert it to a multi-tenant, so just that's how I built my development environment for extensions. So that can be built, and then our main script, always when you want to test, see it as an F5 in Visual Studio. You press F5 to test, right? Here you can have a build script. That is your F5, which is actually also F5. That is going to create your NAVX by exporting, and let's just execute this. So it's going to export all the originals if it didn't already do that. In this case, it already did that, so it's going to go faster in this case. It's going to export the modified, all the modified, or only the ones that is, have the modified flag, if it already exported the rest of the objects. Then it's going to compare always all objects, because I do not want to forget any. Compare, create the deltas, and basically is going to create a NAVX file, and from the moment it has got a NAVX file, it can start deploying it. Now, obviously, it first needs to check, okay, is this already in my, is this app already in, extension, sorry, already in my test environment? Then I need to uninstall it, and it should be doing that, yes, but because it only already found it. And then publishing my new version, and then after that, install it, opening the client, and I can test. Yeah? Visualizations, you have seen our map. Now, custom add-ins is not possible. Default add-ins aren't even possible. Now, this will be fixed soon. You will be able to use all the default add-ins that come with the product really soon in one of the next cumulative updates. Now, so you need to be creative. One example I can give you, you have seen the map. Does anyone have an idea what that was? It was actually just a picture. There is a service online on Bing, by the way, that you can use, and you can send coordinates, and it will send you a picture back that you can import and do it like that. So it's just calling a web service and importing a picture. So you can be creative to do your visualization. You can work with the queues that you have seen as acting like a role center kind of thing. Upgrading an app. Obviously, when we're talking about app or extensions, I should be calling it extensions, and start calling it extensions. You should care about upgrading. Now, how is this upgrading thing going? Did Thomas talk about that during the keynote? No? Okay, let's talk about it a little bit. Now, upgrading. No, I don't want to open it. We trust Waldo. When I add data in my newly created fields or newly created tables, what happens when I uninstall the app or uninstall the extension? Let's just see. Let's see what data that we have in our simple extension. So here is our testing database, and our simple extension just had one extra field, and let's put data in that field. Let's take 2. So what happens? I'm going to keep this open. What happens if I uninstall the app? And, for instance, just install the app again. So in this case, you can notice I just refresh it. Errors like, hey, there was something wrong because you updated the page. Now my field is gone, right? Now I'm going to install the app again. And my data is gone. What actually happens when I uninstall an app, by default, is going to put the data into some temporary tables on SQL Server. I can show you. Whoa, these are big items. So my QA environment should be, let me see, this one. And let me think. Okay. not one table actually. There are normally NAV app tables that is going to build on the fly. From the moment that you export or uninstall the app, it's going to put your data into the table. Now, the idea is that you install the app again, that you're going to get the data out. Yeah, and this should be coded. You should foresee some kind of upgrade code unit. So let me import this upgrade code unit. Start the development environment, and let's see what this code unit looks like. Now, first of all, what I did is, this was my first attempt, like, okay, I have my rental item field, and in this case, I had another field as well, I think. No, yes, no, yes. So I had my, my rental item field, and I need to restore this rental item field. Now, the thing is, first, you need to create a code unit that has these two functions publicly. Because when you install it, it's going to call these functions. One function per database, another function per company. Yeah? And then you're able to call the record ref of the archived version of the data. You can even check the version of the data. Let's not go into that. Now, when you have this record ref is not the item table. So you're not able to get or set table kind of things. In fact, this record ref only have the fields, the key fields, and the added fields that you just added to the table. So it's different. That means that you need to loop. You need to loop the fields and put them one by one back in the original data. Yeah? This is obviously manual, and if you forget one field, your field is gone. So, what I would like to suggest, this is out-of-the-box thinking, like, so I have to provide some tips. What we did is we have built two functions, one for new fields in existing tables, and one for new tables. Yeah, and we just are going to loop everything that we have in a certain number range. One for fields, looping all these fields in this number range, or one for tables. And then you can build some kind of generic function that is going to, not really, yeah, it was one, that is going to loop fields and go into that. Let's not go into the code, but one thing, other tip is use the all object instead of the object table. The object table is not aware of your new added fields, added tables. Yeah? You can use the all object, and that table is kind of like a virtual table which is aware of these newly added objects. Basically what I said. Now, I like to end with telling you what is possible and not possible today. And I added some things on the left column because the right one was bigger than the left one, actually. There is not too much possible today, but you can already build, if you take the rental extension into account, you can build kind of like a cool solution. But you cannot use XML ports. You cannot use web services. You can use web services, but you cannot publish web services based on newly created objects in your extension. You cannot use queries, reports. You cannot delete objects, like creating a simpler nav with an extension. So these are things you need to take into account before you start, obviously, building an extension. I think, and also, yeah, sometimes you need to take a step back from decent design, like not using add-ins, but also decent code design, like not being able to create a function on a table. We don't like that, obviously, but in my opinion, this is one great step to effortless upgrade. I think we can expect a lot of things in the future regarding extensions, and I'm quite excited about this. So let's hope that we will see a lot more in the future. I see that I have 16 minutes, so let's continue to the security part. Now, questions? what user is executing code when you think of just any code? So we have a NAV service tier, and there is code being executed. Which user is going to execute this code? Who thinks it is the SQL Server service account? Okay, I should have put another question on this one. Who thinks it's the user account of the user that is logged into NAV?
In which version?
In 2016. So who thinks it's the user account of the user that is logged into NAV? Who was that? The more I ask this question, the less people it will clap. Who thinks it's the NST service account? Okay. Who of you, what should it be? Who of you think it should be a local admin? Who of you thinks it should be a domain admin? That's a trick question. And you're right. It shouldn't be. Although, that we notice that a lot of you people, of a lot of us, let's say, are creating actually administrators as being the service account, because that's a shortcut. I'm having trouble in adding a service account to this service, and I need to fix this immediately. Let's just add an administrator, and that could be really a problem when these guys come into play. I'm going to share you something that is a trick which you should not use. But which shows you why you should take care of your own customer installations on this. Again, my opinion. Now let's open our default environment, this one, and look at this code unit. Notice that in my environment, I'm the lazy one and just went through a shortcut, and I used administrator for my service account. Yeah? Actually, you do not have to imagine I'm a lazy one. That is quite a safe bet. Now, see this code, one-liners. Quite easy. Actually, just executing net commands. Yeah? With net command, you can add users. No, don't take pictures. You can add users. You can add users to groups. You can even add users to domain groups, if you have enough user rights. So if I execute this and notice that I only have 2 users at this moment on my system, if I execute this, and I'm going to do that with PowerShell because I'm that crazy. Just execute this code unit 50,000. You'll see it's done. The reason why I'm executing with PowerShell, else it's going to open an environment which I don't want to. So it's done. Now let me check this one back. You see that I created a user. And even this user is an administrator. I can create my own administrators. I can create whatever you assign to the service tier as being the user, as having the rights. So if you create a domain admin as being the server's instance, I can be domain admin if I want to. I can log in with this user in this server, and I can do anything with this user. Now, maybe you do not see the issue here, but think hosting. Think that you have a number of customers in a hosted environment, and this hosted environment has got server instances. Being domain admin, I can, in my environment, for my customers, upload the code unit, add myself as a domain admin, and can access about any database on that hosted system. Would you feel safe with your own environment? No claps means no, not safe, right? Help. Next topic. I have 11 minutes. It seems that I'm going to get there. Do you have products? Who of you have a product? Who of you have got a certified product, certified for ISV? So all of those of you have created help. Those of you should have created help. Now, this help thing, we don't like, right? This help thing, come on. We need to have a certified solution, and one of the requirements is have an online help. And this online help has changed since 2013. It's a really online help. Like now it's HTML, and the robo thingy that I've been using is completely not used anymore. Now, another developer in our company had actually quite a great idea, which I would like to share the idea from. And I'm going to share his blog as well. He's blogging all over the place, and I really like his blog. Let me show you this. I'm going to to ask this question. I hope you have a manual for your product. Yeah? So this manual is in Word. Yeah. Obviously, when we have a manual, we should be able to convert it to the online help. And actually, Word is quite flexible in doing that. And this developer I'm talking about, he has been spending not more than 4 hours on creating this great designed tool. Let's not go into the design, but let's go into the functionality. So what it does actually, it reads a certain Word document. I've got this Word document here, which is actually our own manual of our own product, right? What it's going to do, it's going to save in the background, obviously. So it's going to read the HTML. So we can save Word as HTML. You can read this HTML. You can even read this HTML as XML. Yeah? And when you're in XML, you can do quite a lot, like going to all the through all the headers. Like there's an H1, an H2, and an H3. You can even set levels, like, okay, how many levels do you want to have? And the only thing it needs to do is take the entire header out, putting that in a separate HTML file, and then adding some kind of header, which is copied from a default help file from Microsoft, and some kind of ending. So it's just pasting that between these two headers in HTML. And done. And it's going to create, let's start this one. I should have started it already because it takes a while. Now, what we need as well is not only the HTML files, we also need the table of contents. Now, again, this is done with headers. In fact, all the headers and a certain number of levels within the headers we can browse through. So what this tool is going to do, and I'm a little bit struggling with the resolution here, it's building this table of contents. So all we need to do is take this piece of XML and put it in a table of content file of the help server. Yeah? So what we have after this tool has run is a result being all the images that were in the Word document, being all the HTML files, and being the table of content. And the result that could be, let's look at the help, could be something like an extra option in your help server, and being able to, be having the levels that you just exported. Let me just show you this one. You see the pictures. There's even references to all subdomains that is of this kind of things. So 4 hours, and you've got a help that is certified. This goes through certification like easily, and you do not, by the way, need the help per field. You don't need that. Don't spend time on that if you don't want to. If you want to, obviously, do spend time on that. But this is enough. We built this especially for being certified. The downside is if you have this, all customers want this as well. So now you need to actually maintain help service on customers as well. So anyway, I guess this is a positive thing. The last thing I would like to end with, I've got 6 minutes, is NAV MGT. This is an in-house tool, but it's actually what I call a box of outside-the-box thinking. This is actually the brainchild of one of my developers, and about all prototyping that he does in this product. We're using this internally. What it actually does is it manages all NAVs for us. Now, I'm just going to share the ideas. It's about out-of-the-box thinking. I'm not going to share how to code or how it's actually done. So what we have, and what you have probably as well, is customers. Who does not have customers? Okay, you are customers, right? And these customers are either on-premise, or, yeah, even, actually I should look into NAV installations. If you have NAV installations, it is either on-premise, it is either on a laptop, this one, or in the cloud, separate PC, anywhere, right? And what we are trying to do is manage all these installations on a central place. So what we did is build that NAV management thing. What is that? We'll go into that if we have time. Now, this NAV management, yeah, if it needs to be able to control stuff, yeah, it needs to be able to communicate with that stuff. So what it uses is a service bus. You're all familiar with the service bus. It's just a thingy on Azure that we can use to easily communicate with devices or stuff or PCs that also connects to this service bus. Yeah? So basically what NAV MGT can do is use a service bus to manage all these things through what we call a cloud connector. So we are building cloud connectors for all the different customers that we would like to manage. This cloud connector is a small piece of .NET that is actually communicating one thing with NAV on the one side, but also back to NAV management. This case. Now it communicates to NAV management with web services. So it's actually, when you think of it, NAV management is going to consume its own. Yeah. Let me try to show you a small bits and pieces. Now, I really want to like to show you this because it is a great example of out-of-the-box thinking. And again, it is a tool set which is prototyping all over the place. Like, can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do this? And apparently, this developer can do quite a lot. Yeah. First thing I'm going to show is like our clusters. The worst naming ever, but our clusters is actually our own environments, our internal environments. We have 166 internal environments, which is basically all our customers and our products. Let me go to our product. And what we can set up in NAV, so as you can see, it's all built in NAV, and we create new DLLs if we cannot build in NAV. And here are our environments. So we have multiple environments, for instance, for a certain product. Now, this product, easy to explain, is an environment is a release. When you have a new release, we have a new database, a new environment, right? These are our environments, and obviously we have dev environments and all that as well. Now, when we want to set up a new environment, we give it a build number. Always manage your builds at some point, in some way, and we set up the NSTs. We do this all in this environment, in NAV, right? So we create new NSTs, we create a new SQL Server. We tell SQL Server we tell this setting like, okay, take a backup of this instance and restore it on this instance and create a new environment for this server instance. So if we set everything up, I cannot show you this, but we have this fully automated install, then it's going to push everything and do the things that we just told him to do. This is for our own internal environment. This is where it all started. Actually, we want to migrate from a really bad environment to a really good environment, which was virtual. So we had to migrate like a ton of databases to a new environment. That is something that we needed to script in some place, and that is how this actually was born. Now, another great thing is that we manage our customers with it. So we are in connection with lots of these customers. And that means we can push the installation, we can monitor the installation, we can get alerts of it, like if the NAS is down, it will notice it, the cloud connector will notice it and give us an alert through web services, and it will pop up here, and these kind of things. Last thing, our consultants is using this tool as well, but they are using another role center. So we're using this role center, a very slimmed down tool. In fact, also some kind of connection points to all these customers, so we have they have access to the same kind of customers, but for a reason that they should be able to log in. There was a time that we tried to have some kind of default way to log in at the customer, because every customer has another way to log in there, and we wanted one way. And we already had some kind of cloud connector and some kind of connection with that customer. So why not build some kind of remote RDP protocol from us to this customer? And when we start this one, it's actually going to open a port at the customer, a random port, open a port at our place, make the connection, and basically log in to the customer. Now, this can take a while, because the first time that you do this, and I should have done this before the session, then yeah, building DLLs and all that takes a while. I've got 20 seconds, but I'm done actually. Just to, oh my God. Just to resume, to go over it, these are the things that we do with NAV MGT and a few resources. As I said, I would like to mention Mike Knoll's blog. Okay, the RDP is open now, so it made the connection and we can open RDPs. We can now actually open RDPs with any customer that we would like to connect to. Every one of these on-NAV, NAV managed, we can have the RDP connection as well. Now, resources. I would like to mention the Mike Knoll's blog. It's not Mango's blog. By the way, it's Magno's blog. Really, take that one and two. If you don't know it yet, really read it. It's good tips and tricks. It's good out of the box thinking. I would also like to call Vieko's blog. There is no tips of Vieko that I've shown today, but he is the master in out of the box thinking, if you ask me. The PowerShell tips again, PowerShell scripts are on the GitHub, and obviously my blog, I need to mention that as well. I do not have time for questions, so all these t-shirts are mine. No, really. If you want to stay, okay, let's have a few questions. 5 at most, and I prefer yes and no questions.
Is it possible to install extensions side by side using the same IDs?
Is it possible to install 2 extensions side by side using the same IDs? No. Yes, so if you're creating the same IDs, it's going to create IDs by automatically, so it's going to be different anyway. Yeah.
Hello.
Oh.
I
Yeah.
have a question.
Yeah. Sorry. Okay. Questions, because everyone is leaving. It's not going to work. I will be here for half an hour or more. Just after questions come over, and I will just answer the questions back then. Thank you for attending the session.